old, my skating coach pulled my mom aside after practice and said, "She's special. She's gonna go far." Something in me shifted that day. I wanted to be the girl that sentence described, so I trained harder. I competed more. By the time I was 11, it wasn't just my coach anymore. It was everyone. She's the figure skater, not Jiayi who skates, just the figure skater. It was the first thing people said when they introduced me, and it was the first thing I said when I introduced myself. But then I got injured. Overnight, I lost my mobility, my skills, and the entire answer to the question, "Who are you?" And I remember just sitting there, not knowing. If I wasn't the figure skater, then who was I? This compliment that had followed me for ages, the best thing anyone has ever told me, it had stopped being a compliment a long time ago. It had defined me, but now it was gone. That's the danger of a single compliment. Not that someone will see something cruel, but that something wonderful, something well-meaning, like a compliment, would be the only story anyone tells about you. I want to ask everyone a question. What labels are you carrying right now? It could be your occupation, your role in your family, or any word that describes you. When that label disappears, what remains of you? I think most of us have never actually sat with that question before. We've been too busy living inside the label to consider what's underneath it. And these labels start early. You probably still remember your first one: the athlete, the artist, the smart one. These labels, they were supposed to be just starting points, a first sentence of a much longer story. But somehow, they became warped into a full narrative of an identity. When an identity is built on a single label, that identity is fragile. And when that identity is lost, whether through failure, through injury, like in my case, or even through just growing up and changing, you start to wonder what happened. And it all comes down to that single label. But the story doesn't just stop at labels others gave me, because at some point, I started labeling myself. When I think about labels I carry, I think about my occupation. I'm a researcher in computational biology. I also model and compete in pageants. And for the longest time, I felt like I had to introduce those things in separate conversations. But here's the thing. No one told me to do that. No one sat me down and said, "You have to choose." No one said, "You have to split yourself like that." I just felt it, this quiet, constant pressure to be legible, to be easy to categorize, to have one clean answer when someone asked who I was. And that's the thing. I'm not alone in this. A 2025 study in the social psychology of education found that 97.5% of women in STEM graduate programs experience at least moderate imposter feelings. And the NIH found that women enter colleges with more math preparation and higher GPAs, yet report significantly less confidence. More prepared, less confident. I think about that gap a lot because it's not about capability. It's about the story we choose to believe, especially as young women. That we're too feminine to be taken seriously. That we're too much of one thing to be allowed to be another. And for some reason, we internalize that. We become our own gatekeepers, and we end up doing the job of making ourselves small. But here's the thing. It doesn't just stop at labels that you label yourself or labels that other people give you. What about labels that you give to other people? Think about the last time you met someone new and decided pretty quickly what kind of person they were. We do it constantly, and it feels automatic, harmless even, just a way of making sense of this complicated world full of complicated people. But here's what I've come to understand. When you reduce someone to just a label, you stop being curious about them. You stop thinking. And that matters, not for them, but for you. Because your ability to see complexity in others is the same muscle you use to see complexity in yourself. When you cast someone a label and just walk away, you're practicing a way of seeing the world. You're training your brain to find a single story and just stop there. And then you turn that same lens on yourself. So what do you do with all this? Because I'm not just gonna stand up here, tell you what the problem is, and walk off and say thank you. That's not enough. Here's the thing though, it's actually really simple. You have to decide who you are on purpose. intentionally. Not because someone pointed at you and said, she's the one. Not because it's what the room expects from you. Not even to fill a gap where a previous label used to take up. Instead, you look at everything you are right now, and you choose intentionally what to carry. And then you stop shrinking. Because shrinking feels sneaky. It feels like you're reading the room, like you're being smart. But what you're actually doing is deciding in advance what part of you belongs. And get curious about other people. Because the habit of observing nuance in others is the same habit that allows you to observe nuance in yourself. The world doesn't change when we allow other people to write our sentences. It changes when we write our own. So I want to close with a few final questions. What labels are you wearing right now? Ones that other people gave you, ones that you gave yourself, that you could peel off, because you can. And what labels have you given to other people that have stopped you from being curious about them, from looking at them, from letting them surprise you? Because you can peel those off too. What labels are you going to choose to wear? Thank you.